Hello and welcome to the D365 Insights podcast brought to you by Source and Chiara. Today's episode is all around lessons learned in complex global Microsoft Dynamics ERP implementations. And I'm really excited to have two guest speakers today, both from Q Associates. Q Associates are a Microsoft partner who have been delivering Microsoft solutions for the last 30 years across many different countries. And Chiara James is their director of the EMEA region. And also joining us is Valentina Boccardi, who is a project manager and functional consultant in the Business Central space. So starting off, please could you give us a little background each, on what you do and your roles within Q Associates?
Perfect. Firstly, Sarah, thank you so much for inviting us onto the podcast. Really excited to join you today. So my name is Chiara James, and I am the director for the EMEA region at Q Associates. So I work really across the board, spanning from the business development side, supporting the sales, through to the operational side, project delivery.
And hello everyone. I'm Valentina Boccardi and I'm based in Italy, and I work at Q as project manager and functional consultant specialized in Business Central implementation. And I've been here for the past 3 years, and I'm really excited to be here and share some details about our implementations.
Okay, so we'll dive straight in with the questions, and we'll start with the complexity of global D365 implementations. So what makes a global D365 project different from a local one?
Well, according to my experience working with a lot of different global projects, the most important thing that you have to take into account is the different tax requirements and jurisdictions, because this is something companies have to be compliant with, and also the fact that you have to work with teams spread across the globe. So it's not like you have one team in one country with specific cultural characteristics. You have to adapt to different people and different localizations too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just to extend on the team concept, we find that often on global rollouts, the teams sitting in different countries, they're actually not familiar with working with one another. And what's really important and really facilitates particularly the solutioning and design of a ERP system is this kind of unified coordination. And often you're putting together teams who are actually not that familiar with one another, which is something we frequently see with global implementations.
Yeah. So what are the biggest pain points businesses face when rolling out D365 across multiple countries?
I can go ahead with this one. The biggest pain points that I would like to point out are definitely the cultural clash. So the fact that you need to find a proper balance between the autonomy that you give to the local subsidiaries and like the possibility to unify and standardize procedure globally. This is something that is very, very difficult to achieve, and also it's not possible to treat companies equally. So one company is different from another. So this is definitely something to take into consideration, and also change management problems. Those are things that you have to address and consider, because what we noticed is that like users tend to, as this is human, I believe, but users tend to do not like change, and you have to really be there for people changing ERP systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to add on, I think a huge kind of pain point and challenge for these global implementations is we're dealing with, as Valentina pointed out, these individual subsidiaries. Now, each will have their own leadership, own kind of decision makers, and often we're trying to align as many processes as possible. Of course, there are some kind of global rollouts where they leave a lot more autonomy and decision-making authority to the individual countries and regions, but more often than not, there is a kind of aim to try and coordinate as many processes and align them. And that really obviously helps a lot with kind of financial reporting, especially at a group level. So we often find that there's challenges with different leadership styles, decision makers, all in their own right, obviously, is used to kind of having that authority. And when we bring them together and we're trying to kind of align as a single view on particular processes and decisions, we find that the kind of challenges, even at quite a high kind of leadership level in terms of conflicts internally, which obviously can negatively impact the process of particularly around the solutioning and design, and aligning the processes to standardize wherever possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you align business processes across different regions while maintaining compliance?
So I think a lot of this is the methodology, the kind of implementation methodology places a huge importance on how making it easier to align processes and also facilitate change management. There's a lot of debate about which implementation methodologies are the best for ERP rollouts. I would say that it's very dependent on the customer, their capabilities, the ability for the internal team to kind of adapt and be championing the project as well. So what we try our best to kind of follow is more of a hybrid methodologies for majority of implementations, where we will heavily involve the kind of key stakeholders within the solutioning process, leveraging the system to kind of model the processes against the system. Now, when we first kind of kick off an implementation, we'll conduct some kind of process review sessions. And what we'll often find is different countries, of course, will have their own unique independent processes. And we will need to move into kind of modeling processes against the system and really trying to guide the users towards a standard way in which the system works best, which will suit it as many of the kind of subsidiary requirements as possible. It's not always possible to 100% kind of unify all processes. So of course, we will account for kind of individual organizational requirements and obviously modify the setup for that specific entity. But more often than not, it is an aim to really align as many processes as possible and also engage the key stakeholders within that solutioning and design process to facilitate the change management and really get their buy-in, so they can physically see exactly how it will work for them before they actually sign off on the design.
I completely
Fantastic.
agree with Chiara on this one. So methodology is fundamental. And another thing that I found very important for customers from a technical point of view is to take time to explain to them how the system works and what they can achieve with the system. Because most of the time customers or some customers are not really interested in understanding how the system works. They just want to have the job done. But it's really important to take time to educate them. Otherwise, they are the ones that own their business processes. So they are the ones that needs to build the processes with our help. So it's important for them to know how the system works and how the structure of the tables is in the system.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to managing tax localization and regulatory compliance, as this is quite a hot topic for global implementations. Why is tax localization such a critical factor in global implementations?
Well, I guess because you don't have a choice, you have to be compliant with that, and that's what the government requires, and you have no escape.
Yeah.
So that's important for that reason.
And with tax and localizations, it can often depend on the type of industry they're operating in, the customers who they're selling to, what countries their customers sit in. So it's not just, oh, we have to comply and adhere to the country that we are registered in, but you have to consider kind of who you're exporting to, kind of where your services are going, and really focus on kind of being compliant within your country and also within your industry. So there can be a lot of complexities to do with tax and localization and compliance. What we aim to do at Q is we obviously upskill our consultants to familiarize themselves with the kind of main countries that we operate in. We have consultants kind of strategically placed around the globe to try to handle as many localization requirements as possible. Obviously, Microsoft, they provide these localization packages, which make it a lot easier for partners to kind of read through documentation and really understand the local requirements. But of course, we can't have a consultant in every single country. So from time to time, we will kind of have an implementation that involves a subsidiary in a country that we're unfamiliar with, and that's where we'll take the necessary steps to research as much as possible and often engage with local experts, tax kind of accountancy practices, who can actually educate our consultants prior to engaging with the customer, so that they can be prepared and understanding of what the local requirements are. But of course, there is the reliance on the customer to validate everything. We are not tax advisors as partners, we are consultants, so we will do our best to obviously stay up to date, but we also rely on the customers and their accounting department to obviously inform us if there's any legislational changes as well.
Thank you. That's really informative. So can you give us a real world example of a challenging localization issue and how it was solved?
I can take this one. So one of the being from Europe, one of the biggest challenge that I could see in the projects we implemented was with VAT number management. This is because it often happens that companies in European countries have they transact with company in other European companies, and it often happens that those companies have multiple VAT numbers, and it used to be very difficult to manage those with the previous ERP systems. But now, thanks to with F&O, but also Business Central, there are out-of-the-box functionalities that allow you to handle this, and for instance, assign multiple VAT number to customers, and you will be able to pick the right VAT number based on the country you are shipping to. So this is very appreciated by customers. It's something they fall in love with as soon as they see the functionality, because it solves a big pain point, which is managing different VAT statements, taxes, and regulatory requirements.
Perfect. So how do Q Associates ensure regulatory alignment across different tax jurisdictions?
So we aim to have local resource, particularly on the project delivery side. So we operate as one global organization. We're very unified as one, but we do have the kind of project delivery support and sales in each country that we operate. So that helps us to keep stay up to date and have the local kind of compliance knowledge. For countries which we do not have a presence in, we will engage with external kind of tax advisors or accounting firms. Often I've given sent consultants on a kind of quick course with these accounting firms, so that they can prepare themselves and familiarize themselves with the local requirements prior to engaging with the customer. We do obviously rely on the customer as well to know what keeps them compliant, and it really is a kind of dual effort between the consultants keeping up to date, preparing themselves prior to engaging in a new country, and also reading a lot of the Microsoft documentation, which is extremely helpful for understanding the localization packages that Microsoft provide, and also looking at the roadmap. What's coming next as well is very important as regulatory requirements change. So it's not just a matter of learning it one time and that there you go, you've got the knowledge forever. You have to continuously kind of educate yourself and stay up to date with the latest changes.
And if I can add to that, in fact, I was part of the accounting courses that Chiara was mentioning. So I took one for Italy, and it is something I really appreciate here at Q as an employee. We have the time to educate ourselves about the new releases, what updates that Microsoft happens to release in the system, and this is key because when you have something new like the VAT functionality I was mentioning before, you have the time to learn that and properly deliver to the customer.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. So, moving on to sort of some of the more common project challenges, how do you manage time zones, cultural differences, and regional business requirements?
Well, as far as time zone is concerned, I believe that one important thing to point out is that there is a huge difference between remote working and smart working. And thanks to smart working, this is you can really balance the different time zone and the different meetings that you have across the globe, and you will be able to have like a real work-life balance between like your work, your meetings, and your personal life and hobbies. And this is something that I really appreciate here. For instance, I'm working on Canadian projects, and of course they take some like late time meetings, but at the same time I have time to deal with my life in the morning or during my lunch break. So this is definitely one way to overcome project challenge.
Yeah, just second that. Obviously, we are a global company, so we're used to this even for internal calls, often where we do need to be flexible with our schedules, but it is a give and take relationship between employer and employee. And to Valentina's points, other people call it kind of outcome based working, but we try to kind of leave our consultants and team members across the board really as much autonomy as possible when managing their calendar, and that enables the employees. Often they will be willing to on a day take a call kind of in the evening, but also knowing that they can take some time out in the daytime to go to the gym or something, and they really take ownership of their calendars. And as I mentioned, it is a give and take relationship. The employer does need to provide that flexibility and also kind of understanding that people have different schedules and different lifestyles, but then the employee also needs to provide that flexibility. So obviously it depends what type of company you work in, but as a global company, this is something that we employ, and from when we're kind of interviewing new employees, we promote this and we explain this, so it's very clear that this is an expectation. So we're not saying that we force employees to take calls out of work hours, but we will always aim to be flexible and kind of coordinate calls to suit all parties that are obviously joining for that time. When consultants or project managers are working on global projects, the team are obviously aware what region they sit in and try to coordinate and find a time slot that really suits all in office hours if possible. But from time to time, there may be a need for some calls out of office hours. And that's where it's really up to the employers to provide that kind of more outcome-based working environment, which a lot of kind of people do appreciate, as it does actually help them with work-life balance.
Yeah, and I think it's quite typical, isn't it, in some of these complex implementations that you are going to have to work some hours which are a little bit, antisocial. But I know that you guys work fully remotely. So a lot of consultants that I deal with when I'm speaking to, them about contract roles or whatever, they can actually require being out in Europe, for, weeks at a time. So I think it's kind of a bit of a balance, isn't it? And I think that you guys have got it quite right. So thank you for that. So, how do you handle multi-language implementations effectively?
Well, I guess, as you can see from my accent, I'm not English, but I guess that being transparent about the resources availability, where they are from, and upfront with the fact that sometimes they may struggle a little bit with the specific language, it is something that really helps the customer understanding who you are and how you work, and this is really appreciated. And being part of a multi-language like company, something that I really struggled with at the beginning was the cultural differences that you have in the company. And I guess that at the end of the day, you just have to make peace with the fact that people are different, and it's not always easy to understand, especially if you are young, because you don't have like the experience that like older people have. But clashes happens at the beginning, but what really matters is at the end of the day, the result, what comes out of the clash, is a true like respect for the other person and understanding of how they are.
And just, yeah, with languages, it's the same thing. Yeah, we're not going to have a presence in every single country. Obviously, we try to hire consultants that if they do speak multiple languages, fantastic. It's not an absolute requirement, but we do try to put together the appropriate team for the needs of the business. Now, often with these global implementations, from a group level, they do want the kind of driving of the project to be in English. They want a lot of the documentation to be in English, but they might find that particular countries and even teams within specific countries will obviously not have the level of English which will support the implementation. So that is where they will speak to us, and obviously we'll try our best to allocate a resource that can handle that language requirement. And even if we do need to contract that out and have a resource to support just that portion, or train that specific team, we've had it recently on a project where the project was always meant to be delivered in English. That was what was agreed. And then we got into the project, and suddenly they said, look, the warehouse management team's level of English is not that strong. Can you provide a German-speaking resource? So we had to quickly adapt and kind of pour a German-speaking resource into the project just to deliver that portion. So we had a small little amount of preparation and handover, and that German-speaking consultant was able to deliver that portion of the project in Germany. So it's really, like Valentina said, being upfront to the client and transparent about what language capabilities you have, but then also trying to be agile throughout a project to handle unique requests. And yeah, if you have to go find a contract resource just to support the delivery of that language, then that's what the partner should do.
Amazing. And that's great that you can lean on contractors to do that for you. So what strategies do you have for keeping large scale projects on track and within budget?
Well, that's what I do. So there are three things I would like to mention here. Well, the first one is the instruments that Microsoft like provides to us, and DevOps is my best ally there. So there are a lot of different instruments that Microsoft like provides for us, and we can use. But I find DevOps the most useful one, because in there you can keep track of everything, like resources, like customization, development. So everything is merged into one single product, and you can really use that one to make sure everything is on track and within budget. The second thing is being upfront with the team, and like, do not be afraid to look demanding, because sometimes as a project manager you have to be a little bit pushy and make sure that the work is done. But as long as you are upfront with them and you explain to the team why you're doing that, we are all professionals, so they understand why you're doing that. And the third important thing is to like do your homework and plan in advance what's going to happen. But at the same time, as Chiara was mentioning, you don't have to be like set in stone. Nothing you do is set in stone. You have to be agile and be able to change when the customer requires that, and like when situation change or something that you weren't expecting to happen.
Great, thank you. So, moving on to the role of change management, and we talked about business change previously. Why is user adoption harder in global rollout?
So I think, as kind of briefly mentioned on the start of the call, we're often dealing with teams who do not obviously sit in the same office. They don't, more often than not, they don't really work with each other on a day-to-day basis. And that can obviously create some challenges when we're trying to align these key decision makers and bring them together. And they will all have their unique viewpoints, and yeah, we're working with one unified team who work with each other on a day-to-day basis. We have some implementations where it's just a finance implementation, so you're only working with the finance team and they work together every single day. They're all best of friends. Then it does help the implementation go a lot smoother. Whereas when you start kind of pulling different teams together, who effectively, it's almost as if they're working sometimes in another company, because they do not, they've never even met their colleagues sitting in the UK. So that can often present some challenges.
How do you drive engagement across teams in different countries and cultures?
Well, there are different ways we approach projects. One of those is definitely to speak with the team, speak with users, and understand their needs. We realize that people are much more responsive if you show them that you're open to understand their pain points and their needs. And people are much more engaged if you are transparent with them and you show them your collaborative side. Like when you tend to want to drive completely the project, they tend to get on the defensive and they are not happy to work with you. So you are the one that is leading, you are the expert, and this is good to show them to them, because it gives them confidence that you know what you're doing. But at the same time, and again, the balance comes in. You have to be able to understand their needs and listen to what they have to say. And something that is key in a project is to be able to identify the leaders. So those people that are inside the organization and are able to engage with their colleagues. And if you identify those people that do not necessarily are the decision makers, and you have them on your side, you are very close to have a successful implementation.
No. And just to add on that, the leaders point, it's really identifying people who are champions of the project and internally. And by that, I mean, what some people use the word cheerleaders, but they're really positive. They're excited by this transformation project, and positivity and negativity is contagious. So it spreads like wildfire. So it's really important to kind of really assess different characters that sit on the customer side and identify project leaders. When we say project leaders, we're not just talking about the project manager on the customer side, but there will be champions across the organization that are definitely feeling more positive, and you really need to focus on heavily engaging those people, keep them feeling positive about the project, as that will obviously kind of flow through the organization, and positivity towards things goes a long way when driving kind of large transformation projects. As soon as you get kind of negative individuals, especially if those individuals hold a lot of kind of weight internally, don't like to use the word popular, we're not in school, but we often find that this is the nature of things. And there, from our experience, there has been projects where there has been it's someone on the customer side who is actively against the project, and if they're quite a kind of vibrant character, then it can present its own challenges, even leading to internal conflict, which it does happen with organizations in these projects. They are stressful. It's huge amounts of change. You have different viewpoints internally towards the project. So really identifying those who are positive and championing the project is key, and really working with them to kind of just help that positivity flow across the organization.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I haven't heard that before, about finding the key people who are sort of driving it. So hopefully that'll be helpful to our listeners as well. So what key training and support strategies do you use to ensure smooth go live and post go live success?
So we have developed a specific process to ensure that training will be successful and that the go live process will be as smooth as possible for our customer. So as far as training is concerned, we do multiple rounds on the same topic. The first one is a high-level training with the super users that will be in charge of maintaining the system for a specific area. We'll give them a few days to digest, and then we do a second round on the same topics where we dive a little bit deeper into them, and then we give them a few days more, and then we have a Q&A session when we ask them to share the screen and we go through what they do, we test them out with them, and we provide full support. This way we are sure they are fully engaged with what has been explained, they do the testing, and they learn how to use the new system. And then as far as go live process is concerned, we do a detailed cutover planning. We go through all the steps with the customer, and we kind of hold their hand during the whole process to make sure they are happy with the way the data look like, the way the setup and configuration looks like, and we make sure they know the team is available for the go live date and they have our full support. And in addition to them, we do the first upload of transactional data in a testing company. This is where the customer has the possibility to view how the go live will be and test all the data out. And then we do a second upload in the production company, and we really go live on a specific and agreed date with them.
And also we try to be as flexible to the customer needs. As we discussed on the start of this call, we are mainly a remote organization, but we do obviously go on site frequently to customers, and training is one of the key areas where customers may or may not request some on-site presence and resource. So it's really down to the customer. They know their teams better. They know how well the teams will engage and in what format they will engage in a better way. So we really work with the project management or the project leads on the customer side who knows the resources and will adapt to their needs. So if that means that we've had projects where they are global customers and they will literally fly different key stakeholders to a single place, and we will deliver on-site sessions, and that is commonly during the beginning of the project, the solutioning and design phase, or during the kind of training phase. But doing training remotely is also really effective, and some customers prefer that. They can record the sessions. Now there's the Copilot and the other AI tools that you can use to transcribe and create notes. So it's really also about the partner adapting to the individual teams and the client and what they really expect for the training. So we'll be very flexible, and it's not always about delivering remotely. Also happy to get in a room and do some sessions face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. I think meeting people face to face adds real value. But it's great that you can also do it remotely as well. And you mentioned AI. That was we're just going on to the last set of questions now, which is more sort of looking ahead to the future of global D365 implementations. So how is AI, automation, and Power Platforms shaping global ERP rollouts?
So I think, well, there's how it could be used to facilitate the kind of project for the partners to better deliver on these ERP implementations. But then there's also just the constant amount of updates that, for example, we're obviously working in the Microsoft space, that Microsoft are pushing and investing into AI with Copilot. And obviously Copilots, there are I don't know I can't remember what the number of Copilots there are that exist, but there is Copilot that sits across the Dynamics 365 suite of applications, and it's really going to revolutionize the way in which users interact with the systems. There's going to be a period of adoption and transition as kind of end users familiarize themselves with a new way of working. But in terms of making their jobs, I don't want to just use the word easier, it's more optimizing their time. That is really the key, and enabling them to focus on the tasks which really only a human mind can achieve, and to help support them with more menial tasks or to perform tasks faster. So obviously you've got different benefits of AI, but just from a simplistic kind of level you've got that's kind of across the co-pilots currently is the ability to retrieve key information, often in a summary format, in a much faster way than traditionally having to kind of dig around and look at multiple parts of the system to kind of get that one view. Whereas with AI, you're able to prompt and actually pull up kind of and find data that sits somewhere within the system in a much faster time, and also interpret on that data as it extends through the insights and the analytical capabilities that Copilot does provide.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Have you got anything to add to that, Valentina?
Well, one thing that I learned at Directions in Wien in November last year was that there is a Norwegian company that is currently using Copilot as a repository of the knowledge of the company. And what really interested me is the fact that they found people to be really happy to speak with the Copilot instead of going to their colleagues, because like they are a little bit of shame sometimes to tell the colleagues they don't know things. Like while with Copilot, they can really like ask all the kind of questions and not feeling embarrassed too.
Brilliant. So, what do you feel is the importance of Microsoft partners in ensuring long-term success?
So I think there's always the question of, do you go with a partner? Do you try to resource fully in-house? I think with a partner, you get the long-standing continuity and commitment. It's not just a one-off kind of or it shouldn't be a one-off transactional relationship. This is a continued partnership, and that's why we actually have our slogan, "Power in Partnership," is because we view all relationships as partners. So customers being key partners to us, we want to be in partnership with you. We genuinely care about you, your company, and obviously want to facilitate the growth and support that growth in whatever way we can. So I think when you do select a partner to go with, you've not only got the partner throughout the implementation, that obviously extends into continuous support. And not only that, within partner organizations, you obviously have a larger resource pool of consultants and knowledge. That's the bottom line. You can get the most expert individuals in and to kind of lead implementations and try to keep them in-house. But what you'll find is there will be a point in time where that resources knowledge may be slightly limited, or often we find our consultants find it quite useful, no matter how senior they are, to bounce ideas off of one another. And at Q, we have global teams and groups to support knowledge transfer and sharing. So our BC team, they connect, the whole global BC team connect every other week, and they use that time to share challenges they may be having with an implementation, or there's a new requirement that is a bit bizarre, or they've never actually heard of that before. And having that whole team it's not just one mind, it's many, to bounce these ideas off and provide the best results for customers. So I think customers really benefit when they use a partner, and it's not just the consultants you have assigned to the project. There is this wider backup of resource, and if the partner employs or has provisions for their consultants to facilitate as much knowledge transfer and unity as possible, I think that's key in supporting our clients to deliver the best results.
Absolutely. So, just moving on to the final question. So is there any advice you would give for businesses planning their first global D365 implementation?
Well, the biggest piece of advice I could give to those kind of companies is to use this as a real opportunity to reshape their processes. You really get time to think about how you want to use the system, how you want your processes to be, how you want the people in charge of specific processes to be. And this is something that doesn't really happen that often in companies because you're busy doing the daily job. So this is a great opportunity that every company should have and use.
And mine would be to leverage tools, collaborative tools, as much as possible. When teams are located in different countries, they're not going to physically be in the same room throughout the entire project. So it's really important to leverage tools, for example, Teams or other kind of spaces for the teams to connect, collaborate, and have open communication between the delivery consultants and the core team that will be driving the implementation internally. So leverage the tools that you have, and also advice for end customers is have an internal kickoff call, and also ensure that you've got someone, particularly the project lead, is someone who is championing the project and able to kind of just channel that kind of positivity across those who are directly involved with the implementation. Like, having that preparation is key, and I'd often advise to have a internal kickoff, especially if you're aligning new teams and colleagues who have never worked with one another before. And if you can also have times where those people meet each other in person, that will also really help as well, as it gives the kind of real life kind of experience, and helps the team feel more comfortable with one another. It's just as important, the customer being a unified kind of front and team, as it is the partner team who is delivering.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Chiara and Valentina, for coming on the podcast. I think it's been so insightful. And if there are any businesses listening to this who are looking at a global implementation, I'm sure that they will take a lot away from it. So thank you again. And to our listeners, if you're not following D365 Insights, you're able to connect with us on Spotify and YouTube, and you're also able to follow the Source and Connect page on LinkedIn. So thank you everybody for listening, and thank you again, Chiara and Valentina, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Sarah.